Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys at Magic. This is Hunter and Shane. Say what up, Shane.
What's up, nerds?
We are back with another Precon upgrade in the $100 variety to the new Modern Horizons 3 decks. But this one, Shane, you've got the opportunity to upgrade the Graveyard Overdrive deck, also known as the Lurgoyf deck
hmm
by some people. But yeah, I just want to remind everybody that we are doing the face commander for this deck, which is Disa the Restless. If you guys wanted to see the backup commander, that's over on our Patreon. That's Corum the Undertaker. So if you check the link in the description down below, it'll take you to our Patreon. Consider subscribing and check that out. But like I said, this is Disa the Restless. So Shane, talk to me about Disa the Restless and kind of what the deck wants to do.
You said it already, man. Lurgoyf, Tarmogoyf. But Disa the Restless is two, a black, a red, and a green for a 5/6 human scout. It says whenever a Lurgoyf permanent card is put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, put it onto the battlefield. It also says whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a Tarmogoyf token. We all probably refer to Tarmogoyf, but one of the most infamous cards in, I would say, all of Magic besides some Planeswalkers. But basically, we're going to be trying to split up our attacks, attack multiple people, and create a bunch of Tarmogoyfs. And then whenever we pitch a Lurgoyf from our hand or it gets milled or any kind of way, we're just going to put it on the battlefield. It's going to be fantastic.
That's simple and to the point. I like it. So, before we get started, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And let's go ahead and kick it off with these additions, Shane.
I like to start doing what you've been doing now, Hunter. I'll look at the set that this precon will come out in, and I'll try to find some stuff that'll go into that. So these first three are going to all be from the set that weren't in the deck, and we're going to put it in the deck. The first being Grist Voracious Larva. It's 1 green mana for a 1/2 insect. It has Death Touch, and it says, whenever Grist or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered from the graveyard or you cast it from the graveyard, you may pay a green. If you do, exile Grist and return it to the battlefield, transformed under its owner's control. And then the backside is Grist the Plague Swarm. It is a planeswalker that has a starting loyalty of 3. It has a +1 that says create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token. Then mill 2 cards. Put a death touch counter on the token if a black card was milled this way. It's got a -2 that says destroy target artifact or enchantment. And it's got a -6 that says for each creature card in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 black and green insect. This card is going to do a lot of work for you, man. The front half is a nice little death toucher, and then when you're bringing back some goifs, or I guess just some lurgoifs in general, the back half is fantastic. It pretty much does everything you want to do. It helps you mill, create some insects, which then you can attack your opponents to make more lurgoifs, or tarmogoyfs. Sorry, more tarmogoyfs. It's got some destroy. This card has a lot going for us in this deck.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get Grist to flip, especially when it just says whenever something enters under your control, if it enters from a graveyard. That's what your commander's doing. If
Yep,
something hits the graveyard, it goes straight back onto the battlefield. Boom, pay a green, flip Grist.
yep,
That's awesome.
pretty straightforward. The next card I'm putting in is 6. It's 2 and a green for a 2/4 tree folk. It has reach. It says whenever 6 attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. It also says as long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. That's fantastic. That can kind of help you feed Grist if you need to. If you don't remember what retrace is, we'll go over it real quick. You may cast permanent cards from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying their mana cost. That's really good. It's going to help you fill your graveyard and then give you the access to cast anything from your graveyard. I love this card.
Yeah, for whatever reason, if your commander's not on the field and there's Goifs in the graveyard, you just retrace them.
Yep. And even if there's maybe some not goifs in the graveyard, retrace them, get on the field, dude.
Mm-hmm.
The last one from the new set is White of the Reliquary. It is a black and a green for a 2/2 zombie knight. It has vigilance. It says it gets +1/+1 for each creature in your graveyard. It also says you can tap it, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It's a good little way to ramp up a bit if you got some tokens to get rid of. It's also just going to be really big because you're filling your graveyard. I like this card a lot.
Yeah, it's another great include from this set that goes directly into your deck.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned it in the beginning. This is kind of a Lurgoyf kindred deck, if you will. So, what are some Lurgoyfs that didn't actually make it into the precon themselves?
Well, very weird, Hunter. I think you've said this multiple times now. We're the Tarmogoyf deck that doesn't have Tarmogoyf in it. So we're putting Tarmogoyf in. It's 1 in a green for a star, 1+ star. It's a Lurgoyf, and it says Tarmogoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and his toughness is equal to the number +1. Really good card. It's going to be big, and I mean, I know our commander makes copies of them, but it didn't feel right to have a Tarmogoyf deck without Tarmogoyf in it, so he's in it now.
Yeah, it's super weird, man. Your commander makes Tarmogoyf tokens. It's all about Tarmogoyf, right? And then they don't include Tarmogoyf himself.
Yeah, I was originally like, what, is it because Tarmogoyf's super expensive? But no, it's really not that bad. It's like $10.
Especially in a premium product, should have been in this.
I completely agree. The next Lurgoyf I'm throwing in is Terravor. It's 1 and 2 green for a star Lurgoyf. It has trample, and it says its power and toughness are each equal to the number of land cards in all graveyards. People will be having some fetches, maybe, but in our pod, I think I'm just going to be pitching a bunch of lands with my other cards. I'm going to be milling a bunch. I should have a lot of lands in my graveyard. Maybe you guys will have some as well, but this guy can get pretty big, and he's got trample, so great evasion on a Lurgoyf.
Yeah, I can see that, man.
Another Lurgoyf I'm putting in is the Tritivore. It is 2 and 2 red for a star Lurgoyf. It says its power and toughness are each equal to the number of non-basic land cards in your opponent's graveyards. It has suspend X, and it is X, 3, and a red. X can't be 0. It says whenever a time counter is removed from the Tritivore, while it's removed from the game, destroy target non-basic land. Little bit of a mean card here. You'll be removing time counters and kind of just destroying your opponent's land. So they might not like that, but it's a good card, dude.
That is a good card, dude. I didn't know there was so many Lurgoyfs in this game.
Yeah, so I really didn't either, actually.
Turns out, some pretty good ones too.
Yeah.
But those are all the Lurgoyfs. Let's talk about some more creatures.
Well, we're a graveyard deck. One of the best ways to fill up your graveyard is with Dredge. So I wanted to put some Dredge in there. The first of which I'm going to be putting in is Golgari Grave Troll. For 4 and a green, it is a 0/0 troll skeleton. It says Golgari Grave Troll enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. It also has pay 1, remove a +1/+1 counter from Golgari Grave Troll, regenerate Golgari Grave Troll. And then the last thing is Dredge 6. And what Dredge is, if you don't remember, if you would draw a card, you may mill 6 cards instead. If you do, return this card from the graveyard to your hand. So if he's in your graveyard, I'm not even going to draw. I'm just going to pick him up, put him in my hand, and then mill 6. It's not a broken mechanic at all. It is very fair in Magic. This is fantastic.
Dredge is so fair in Magic. It's never been broken and dominated when it was first introduced. So, show me the other Dredge cards.
All right, well, we got more. I'm also putting in Stinkweed Imp for 2 and a black. It's a 1/2 Imp. It has flying, and it says whenever Stinkweed Imp deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. And then it has Dredge 5. Just like the last one, you can pick it up, mill 5, now you can play him again. And then just, no one wants to block this, right?
It almost wants to attack into it. It's definitely staying on blocks forever.
I mean, maybe, but yeah, probably. The last one I'm putting in is Life from the Loam. It's 1 and a green for a sorcery. It says return up to 3 land cards from your graveyard to your hand. And it's got Dredge 3. So just a good way to make sure you don't miss your land drops and then also dredge a little bit.
Dredge, Dredge, Dredge.
We have one more Dredge. I'm putting in Golgari Thug. For 1 and a black, it is a 1/1 human warrior. It says whenever Golgari Thug dies, put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. And it has Dredge 4. It's another good way to bring things back from your graveyard. I mean, it's not to your hand, so you're going to have to draw it, but it's got Dredge. The last creature in general I'm throwing in is Taurian Mauler. It's 2 and a red for a 2/2 shapeshifter. It has Changeling, and it says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on Taurian Mauler. It's a shapeshifter, so it's a Lurgoyf. And whenever your opponents play Magic, it grows. Pretty good.
Yeah. It's going to get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to EDH, man. You've got multiple opponents, so it gets out of hand pretty quick.
Yep.
But like you said, that's all of the creatures. It's all of the Dredge. That's all of the kind of spells. But what about another spell in the form of a Planeswalker?
Yeah. The deck came with a Lily, but I wanted to put another Lily in. So I'm putting Liliana of the Veil in. For 1 and 2 black, it's a Planeswalker that starts with a 3 loyalty. It's got a +1 that says each player discards a card. It's got a -2 that says target player sacrifices a creature. And she has a -6 that says separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. Really mean all. But +1 is great to just start pitching stuff that we actually kind of want in our graveyard. You can pitch a Lurgoyf. Your opponents are going to have to pitch something else. You get that Lurgoyf onto the field if your commander's out. Pretty good. And then just, having people sacrifice creatures, they're not going to like it. This is a good planeswalker for us.
It is a good planeswalker. It's some might say one of the best planeswalkers, but yeah, this is really good in this deck. And finally, it looks like you touched the land base a little bit.
You and I are the same, Hunter. What you did, I did. So I put in all the bond lands of these colors. So I'm putting in Undergrowth Stadium, Spire Garden, and Luxury Suite. They all enter the battlefield untapped if you have 2 or more opponents playing EDH. Hopefully you have 2 or more still. And then they all tap for their respective colors. So Undergrowth Stadium is a black and a green, Spire Garden is a red and a green, and Luxury Suite is a black and a red. These are great lands. One day they'll be in our decks.
One day. That is not today. But is that going to do it? Is that all of your additions for this deck?
That's it, man. For the 100, these are all what I'm putting in.
All right, I love it. But now it is the sad part. This is where we say goodbye to all of those awesome cards that came into the Precon to make room for all these brand new awesome cards. So talk to me. What are we cutting out of the deck?
I'm going to be cutting out a little bit of the top end of this deck and just kind of cards that kind of felt clunky to me. The first is Junji, the Midnight Sky. 3 and 2 black for a 5/5 Spirit Dragon. It's got Flying and Menace, and it says when it dies, choose 1. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. Or put target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose 2 life. Seems kind of good because he cares about, dying and then going to the graveyard. But it wasn't a Lurgoyf, and I kind of wanted a bit more of my Lurgoyf/Dredge into the deck, so I just chopped this guy off. The next one I'm cutting is Exterminator Magmarch. It is 2, a black and a red for a 5/3 Phyrexian Construct. And it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single non-land permanent an opponent controls, if another opponent controls 1 or more non-land permanents that spell could target, choose one of those permanents. Copy the spell. The copy targets the chosen permanent. It also has, you can pay 1 in a black, regenerate, Exterminator Magmarch. This seems like a fun card, but I just don't understand why it's in this deck. We don't really have that many instant or sorceries, so that could be suited somewhere else. I don't know. I just didn't like it in this list.
Sometimes I feel like Wizards makes cards and doesn't know where to put them. And then every once in a while, you'll see a card it's brand new, and they're like, this is going to go here. And it doesn't really work, but it's new. And that's what this card is.
It's a new cool toy, right? Like, I'm not saying it's not a bad card. It just doesn't really belong in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut it. I'm going to also be cutting Bloodbraid Elf for 2, a red and a green. It's a 3/2 Elf Berserker. It has haste and it just has Cascade. That's a really good card, but why is it in the? I don't really know. It doesn't really help us put things in the graveyard. I mean, I get you're getting a free spell, but I don't know. I kept in the other version of Bloodbraid, so that's a new version, but why is this one in? I just cut it.
Also an odd include. What about some other creatures that you're cutting out?
We got more. I'm cutting out Burnished Heart for 3 generic mana. It is a 2/2 elk. It says you could pay 3, sacrifice Burnished Heart, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Pretty good ramp. I understand that. A little slow though. You got to pay 3 and then pay 3 again. Kind of just sit around for a while. There are other ways to do it that are a little cheaper in this deck. I kept them in. This one's getting a cut.
I think Life from the Loam is going to get you lands a little bit quicker.
That is very true. I'm also cutting Eternal Witness for 1 and 2 green. It's a 2/1 human shaman. It says whenever Eternal Witness enters the battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Kind of redundant in this deck. There's a bunch of ways to do that, and I just needed some room in the creature department, and this one wasn't really doing anything besides just doing what the deck already kind of does. So I cut it off. I didn't need it.
All right, and we did see you add a Liliana Planeswalker. Are we replacing it with another one?
We are. I'm going to be cutting Grook Apex Predator. It's pretty beefy. It is 5, a black and a green for a Planeswalker with a 5 starting loyalty. Its +1 says destroy another target Planeswalker. Another +1 that says create a 3/3 black beast creature token with Death Touch. It's got a -3 that says destroy target creature. You gain life equal to its toughness. And then it has an ultimate of -8 that says, target opponent gets an emblem with whenever a creature attacks you, it gets +5/+5 and gains trample until end of turn. He's a cool planeswalker and he's got some neat abilities, but it's really expensive. And I like the planeswalker we added, so I cut this big one, added the better one.
Yeah, 7 mana is hefty, and for 7 mana, you want something to kind of go along with the theme of your deck, and this doesn't really do that.
Yeah, the only thing it's got going for it is making that Death Touch Beast so people won't block it, so you can attack and then make a Tarmogoyf. I think that's probably why it's in the deck, because the first +1 is just like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the non-permanent spells. What do we got here?
I'm just cutting 2. I'm cutting an instant and I'm cutting a sorcery. The instant is Bituminous Blast. It's 3, a black and a red for an instant that just has Cascade, and it says it deals 4 damage to target creature. 4 damage isn't that big in EDH, and then having the ability to Cascade, I just don't fully understand the Cascade in this deck. There was a couple pieces that had Cascade. Maybe I'm missing something. I just didn't think that dealing 4 damage and cascading was all that good, so I cut it.
Yeah, Cascade, really weird sub-theme of this Lurgoyf deck.
Yeah. And then I'm also be cutting the sorcery Find and Finality. It's one of those split cards. Find is a hybrid black-green, for a sorcery that says return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. And then the Finality is 4, a black and a green, for a sorcery. And it says you may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control. Then all creatures get -4/-4 till end of turn. So the Finality is a bit of a board wipe, but like I said with the last card, -4 isn't that big. I don't know. I don't think it's that great of a board wipe. And then the Find again is just doing the thing that the deck already kind of does, kind of redundant. I just didn't like this card ultimately, so I cut it.
Yeah, you had better cards now.
I
So
did.
these two are just not needed. Makes sense.
Yep.
And finally, I'm seeing you cut quite a bit of the land department. What do we got?
So this deck out of the box came with 39 land. Ah, I don't even know. It's not a land deck per se, but seemed really high to me. We did add those 3 bond lands, so I'm going to be cutting ultimately 7. So we're going down to 35 from 39. The first one I'm cutting is Evolving Wilds. It's just a land that you can tap it, sacrifice Evolving Wilds, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Just a very slow fetch. It's very Precon-y. I cut it. This next set of 3 that I'm cutting, I have just a bad taste in my mouth for filter lands. So I cut all 3 of these filter lands. So Viridescent Bog, Mossfire Valley, and Shadowblood Ridge, they're all getting cut. They're lands that you could pay 1, tap them, and then add 2 mana of the respective colors. So Viridescent Bog is a black and a green, Mossfire Valley is a red and a green, and Shadowblood Ridge is a black and a red. I get that you're netting 1 here, but the mental gymnastics you have to go through sometimes to figure out what you're tapping what, like it's just, the headache's not worth it. I'm cutting them. I'm also cutting all the temples. So Abandon, Malady, and Malice. I don't like these cards. I'm cutting them all. They enter the battlefield tapped always. They all scry 1 when they come in, and they tap for the respective colors. So Abandon is a red and a green. Malady is a black and a green. And Malice is a red and a black. Cut them out.
Yeah, I cut them out every time I upgraded Precon 2. They're the slowest of lands. They always enter the battlefield tapped, and that's mainly the reason I'm cutting them.
Me too.
But is that going to do it? Is that your entire upgrade?
That's the 100 for me, man.
All right, Graveyard Overdrive. We gave you $100, Shane. What was the total amount of money you spent on all these editions?
Well, the set just came out, so prices may vary a little bit. But if you went to pick up all these cards at time of recording, it's going to be $95. Pretty much flat.
Coming right under budget. I like it.
I know.
Yeah, because their pre-order prices, they might actually go even lower.
I hope so.
Saving the people some money. I like it. All right. So before we wrap things up, Shane, do you have any final thoughts on Disa the Restless and the deck as a whole?
Yeah, a lot of people kind of poo-pooed this deck a little bit, I get that it didn't get all the love. But I do think this is really fun. I think it's going to be great. I think I'm going to be attacking everyone, and I can't wait to see my army of Tarmogoyfs with the one real Tarmogoyf,
Yeah.
So I'll have the one real Tarmogoyf and then all the tokens. And then win, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. Just win that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel so you're staying up to date with all the other videos, including all the other upgrades that we're doing. Um, if you guys liked these additions, maybe he missed one. Comment down below. What would you add? If you wanted to see this entire deck list, check the description. You'll find a link to our Mox field. Playtest it. Fool around with the deck. It's a lot of fun. Also in the description, you'll find links to our social media accounts. That's TikTok, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's @GuysAtMagic for each one. Follow us on those as well. On the screen right now, those are all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your added support. If you guys wanted to see what they are seeing, which is not here on YouTube, including the backup $100 and $300 upgrades, so like Corum the Undertaker, for example, over on our Patreon, check the link in the description and consider subscribing. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Bye bye.